Hey there. So today's format is a little bit different than usual. This is more about one image, a very crude representation of that you can see behind me. There's a little story behind this. The way I came to the course was, I think all of us had some maybe rather strange or coincidental situations how we found the course. And for me it was, I ordered a book. It was 1992 in Germany. I ordered a book about the psychology of love, and a different book came, and that book was the translation of this book, The Heart of Healing, by Bruce Davis and Jenny Wright Davis. The German translation is Love Heals, Liebe heilt. And I wanted to send it back, and then I thought, all right, I'm just going to read it. And the book had quotes from the course in it. And when I started reading, I came to one where I basically just sobbed. I was just sitting at the kitchen table at my apartment and sobbed over what I read. And that basically started the whole process. And there is one quote in here that is still one of my favorite quotes, and this is that image that I was thinking about that is behind me on the board. And the quote is from chapter 13, section 4, paragraph 7. The quote is, "Now is the closest approximation of eternity that this world offers." And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because we read this, now is the closest approximation to eternity that this world offers, and we just go on to the next sentence, right? Which kind of explains it a little bit. It says, "It is in the reality of now, without past or future, that the beginning of the appreciation of eternity lies. For only now is here, and only now presents the opportunities for the holy encounters in which salvation can be found." I spoke about in other segments about, and Jesus talks about that a lot, that we are basically never in the present. We are either preoccupied with the past, or we are preoccupied with the future. The ego's strategy is very clear. If you think of time as a just continuous stream, right? The Course says everything happens at the same time, but just for this image, to see how the ego works, it's good to see, just so to realize that past and the present, there is really no present. That's a concept the ego made up. Within the ego cannot allow the present moment to appear. The ego has to stay in the past or in the future, because in the past we can't make a decision against it, and in the future we can't make a decision against the ego. We can only make that decision against the ego in the very moment right now. So the ego strategy is to keep us, or try to keep us away from this present moment at all costs. That is the number one purpose of the ego, is to keep us away from the present moment. That's why it invented sin, because if we sinned in the past, anything we can experience now is guilt, and anything we can have in the future is fear of the future. So the moment sin comes in, the present moment is dedicated to the ego. And if we think about it this way and realize that right now, at this very moment, if we look out into the world, we look at other people, we don't feel complete love for everything and everyone, we are in the ego, and we are not in the present moment. We are in the past or in the future. So the ego's motivation is to keep us out of the present moment, and our thoughts can be seen also as this stream, this continuous stream, right? It goes from the past, skipping the present moment completely, into the future, building a barrier between us and experiencing the love of God. And when Jesus says, "For now is the closest approximation of eternity that this world offers." If we make eternity equal to love, all-encompassing love, and a peace that, as Jesus says, and that also it's in the Bible, passeth our understanding, right? It's a completely foreign concept to us because we were with the ego so long and so deeply attached to it and identified with it, that the concept of peace, or peace itself, we completely have split off the experience of peace. So the image that I thought about was, and we don't realize that because we have no concept of eternity, our ego mind was basically made to blot out eternity. So with the ego mind, we can never experience it, or get a wisp of it, or like the Course says, a couple of notes of a melody, not quite unfamiliar, that we, it's almost like an echo of something that resonates within our mind, but it is so faint, and we are going, when we experience it, we go straight back to thinking about the past or the future. So to think that in this world, which is a complete defense against love, the Course says this world was made as an attack on God. So this world is at the very least a massive defensive structure against love. But within this world, there is a gate that connects us back to the love that we are and that we think we have lost. And that gate is wide open. And that gate is the present moment, right now. So I feel like if we were theoretically able to focus our attention away from the past, away from the future, into the present moment, we would stand at the gate to eternity. And we could literally step straight through and we would be home. So when the ego tells us that this journey is very long and very hard and very hopeless at times, what it doesn't want to tell us is that right now, at this very moment, closer than anything we can ever think of, is eternity. The connection to eternity is here right now. That's why forgiveness is so crucial. What keeps us from the present moment, from this gate into eternity, is our belief in sin. And the ego said, or the ego told us, that our wish to separate from eternity has caused eternity to cease to exist. So God is dead. Our individuality is alive. And because of that, because we are alive as an individual, God must be dead. Because individuality and oneness cannot coexist. If we exist, God must be dead, which means we have killed God. And that is what brought about the concept of sin. And we adopted this concept of sin within us and we believe it wholeheartedly. And that belief in sin prevents us from being able to access this moment. Because we work with the Course and we might feel, why can't I have this, whatever the Course talks about, this holy instant? I had it once. Or why can't I experience peace? I'm trying very hard to experience peace, I can't. Or I try to focus my thoughts on peace and I can't. Other thoughts seems to come in. And you have to realize that that's on purpose, right? We are purposeful with our thoughts. We don't want that gate. We don't want to reach that gate. We want to be stuck somewhere in the river of past and future and never reach this very moment in the now. Because in the now, we would basically just go back home. And once in a while, we pass it and we have this moment of realization that we're forgiven, that love is real, and then we let go of it again and we continue in our river between the past and the future with seemingly no access to that point. So looking at our projections of guilt that we have placed onto each other with Jesus is what decreases our belief in sin. That means we're gonna spend less time in the ego thought system. And the moment we are free from the ego thought system, we can go to the gate and we have access to eternity. And even if we're still a little suspicious, we're still not 100% sure that we want to go there, at least we can access the gate, even though we might not be ready to step through it, but we might be able to access it. We can stand in front of the gate, realizing that we could take one step and we would be home, even though we were not quite ready to make that step yet. And in order to get to this gate, to the now, to the present moment, the way the Course tells us, gets us there, is through forgiveness. And forgiveness basically is the process of looking at our ego without judgment. If we look at the ego with judgment, we must be in the ego. If we look at the ego without judgment, we are outside of the ego. And each moment we spend outside the ego, we spend with the right mind. And Jesus says each moment we spend with Him reinforces that desire to be with Him more and more. And where Jesus is, He's basically standing at the gate, waiting for us, stretching out His hand and say, whenever you're ready, you can come to me and we'll go through the gate together. He can't come into the past or into the future with us, because that is a concept that we made up, that is not real. He stands at the gate and He calls to us, right, to come and join Him, and then we can walk through it and into eternity back with Him. And that is the process of forgiveness that the Course sets forth. There's many lines in the Course where Jesus talks about this, maybe in a little bit of a different language. For example, He says, healing cannot be accomplished in the past, right? Forgiveness cannot be accomplished in the past. It always has to happen right now at this very moment. The whole focus of the Course is that's why looking at the ego is so crucial, because the moment we look at the ego, we are outside the stream of time and space, right? We're outside the ego mind. The moment we're outside the ego mind, it is much easier for us to go towards that gate where we go back to eternity. While we're in here, we're just in this maelstrom of gushing water, of guilt. We can't get out. But the moment we look at the ego without judgment, it's much calmer there, and we can more reasonably realize, wait a minute, there's something missing. And I'm gonna find that thing that's missing, and what's missing is the entrance to the gate that we wanna find, right? The ego tells us that gate is somewhere in this stream. And the Course says, and Jesus says, no, the gate is right now. It is not in the past. It is not in the future. If you're waiting to complete this course in the future, the ego has you, right? The matrix has you. The only time we can have at least an inkling of eternity is at this very moment. I think that's it. I've been working on a bigger segment about the laws of the obstacles to peace, and it's gonna take a couple of weeks. So I thought I'll sneak one in about the gate to eternity that is right now.